It's Don, the Auction Professor. I just got back from Picker, literally just 5 minutes ago. Nice day outside today. It's been a pretty enjoyable day. I got this box of stuff here. Hey, Don, the Auction Professor. I just got back from a pick just a few minutes ago. Just got in the door, threw it out here. I thought I'd throw it out and pull them out and kind of show you what I got. $1 a piece on some records here, 78s. I was happy to get this call. There's some real nice early ones in here. There's one in here that's worth over $300. The last two sold for that, and my copy is much, much better than theirs. I may have a $500 78, which will be a first for this year on 78s. I've sold many $500 33s and 45s recently, but this will be my first 78 in a while that high. But let me show you a few of the other items I got. I was just talking, somebody showed me a picture of what we originally thought might have been telegraph items, but I did run across these just from my picker. These are actually master relays, circa 1903. They're Western Electric. I paid $5 for these a piece. They're all different. They're all slightly a little different, it looks like, yeah. But I should probably get, say, around $50 a piece for these. They're originals. They're very heavy. These weigh like 6 or 7 pounds maybe a piece. Solid metal. I imagine there's probably a ton of copper in these too. It's all brass and steel. Pretty interesting. Again, it was just kind of coincident. I was just talking about these with somebody else, as I said. So, and off I go. I found these. I wasn't sure that's what they were at first, but very obvious. They usually have these dual units here, and then the clicker. You can kind of hear that. A couple other items we'll show you. Most of what I got are these, a couple of books, and then all the records. I really went for the records. The other items were just a bonus. Most Alice in Wonderland items I sell very well. This is a classic Whitman series. This looks like it's an early one, probably 40s, maybe before that. 1945, so pretty good. It's still got the cover. Most of the Whitman ones I get at least 10 or 15 for. These were $1 a piece as well. And then here's Girl's Treasury of Things to Do. Caroline Horowitz, age 9 to 12. I don't know about this one. I'll have to look it up. It's in real good condition. Still has the dust jacket. It's got Halloween things in it. Let's see if I can find a date. 1946, so another nice early 40s one. A minimum, I'll probably put, say, $27.50 on these, and then we'll go from there. And then I have a ton of records, but I'm going to slide it over here so you can see the records themselves. And we're going to flip over to a camera view, and I'm going to show you the records. And literally, I got about 60. I think I discarded 10 that really just weren't worth selling. But all the rest I did very well on. I looked through probably 600 or 700 of the 78s to get to this box here. Again, you can kind of see how many. It weighs still a lot. There's probably 30 pounds worth of records here. So anyway, let's hop over it. I'm going to show you the records themselves. Okay, so we're on to the records here. These are literally what I got most of today. Some of the records will look a little weird. You really need to darken them up. It doesn't do them justice. The glare on the records is really hard to kind of combat on the video. On the photo-wise, I can do it just fine. But this is a Leonard Spencer. This is Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. This one's fairly scarce. This is like $75. Here's an early Brunswick. This is Bernie Cummins. This is a jazz one. This one should go for around $34.50. And again, the songs matter on this. Just because it has this label doesn't mean it's going to be worth a ton of money. You really have to investigate it. Next one here. Here's an early Columbia, Irving Kaufman. This one should sell very well. I've seen this one before. I want to say the last one I had I got $17.50 for. It's kind of hard to see it. This is actually, the label looks very dark. I'm trying to get you a good look at what the label looks like. It actually looks better than what you can see it at, unfortunately. But that is it. That's $27.50 I should get out of this one. Here's a Brown Wax Perfect, Harry Reeser. This is about $24.50 on this one. This is an early jazz. Look for the Foxtrot on there. Those are almost always jazz. This label with the brown shellac are worth more than some of the other common labels. Next one here. This is a common one. Gray Gull. This one's $19.99 I'm going to put on it. I'll probably get about $15 for this one. Next one here, Charlie Peanut Faircloth. This is an oddball one. It's like a bopper kind of. 27.50 I should get. Most of his sell fairly well early. This is a Batwing Victor. I'm sure you haven't heard that before. You can see my postie. I postie everything. Batwing, they call it because these hoops up here are similar to a batwing as it goes around. So this is a batwing. If you ever hear me or anybody talk about it, this is Shannon 4. This is a World War I era, 1917-ish. This was made. There's a service flag flying at our house. This is a good piece. Most of the World War I items are right now selling very hot. I should get around 30, 34.50 for this one. It's a pretty good one. Condition on these is mostly E, which is what I buy or try to. The Campbell and Burr. This is an early. This is about 1910-ish, 1913 probably at the latest. This is 27.50. Some of these are only one-sided. So if you flip them over, you'll only see printing and record grooves on one side. But this is a pretty good one, 27.50. Here's another World War I. The Normandy, time in Normandy. That's literally referring to the time in France. This is about 1915-16 era. This is probably 34.50 as well. It's a pretty early one too. Probably most people haven't seen it. If you're familiar, Monarch used to have this label, and it used to be Monarch Victor. It used to be Monarch before even that with the same dog. And then it turned into Monarch Victor and then Victor. So Monarch went by way of history. But again, 34.50 on the military. This Harry Donahue, he is not worth much at all for the most part. He's an Irish performer. His stuff just doesn't sell, but the World War I records do sell very well for us. Here's a nice early one. Inez Barbour. It's from Chocolate Soldier. This is a pretty good one. I should get 57.50. This is an early, say, 1910-ish Columbia. Nice early one. Real nice condition. You can see how shiny it is. This is probably like an E+ condition. Let's see, here's another World War I. Now this one here, I sell all the time. I get probably $17.50 to say $34.50 a piece, depending on the condition. I have two of these just right now I bought from the same collection. So $34.50 a piece I'm putting on them. And they're two. And these aren't plain on the other side. There is nothing on the other side. It's completely smooth. Same performer here, same song, same title, same record disc. Both sides are blank, or both have blank backs. Again, $34.50 a piece. And as I said, I spent $1 a piece on the records. Here's an early Christmas one. It's Christmas Joy. Let's see if I want to try and pronounce it. Estelle, Lufsky, and Schutz. That's the performers. I've sold some by this group before. Usually the Christmas ones from this era sell fairly well. $37.50 I'm going to put on this early Columbia disc. Rod and Heaver made this label here. This is one that you should probably look out for. It just says special. This is a religious one. Rod and Heaver was a religious pastor. I've sold records just by him as well too. But this one here should be, I'm going to put 95 on two of these, only because one of them has a little chip on the rim. But I should easily get 95 or so for two of these records. Printing on both sides too. This is a two-siders, of course, but it has a rim chip. Let's see if you can see it. Right there's a rim chip. It doesn't touch the track, but a lot of collectors aren't going to want them like that. If it's a real record and something like this is there, they're still going to sell very well. But I'm just going to put 95 on these and get them gone for the two. Here's an early Paramount label. This one here, let's see. This is someone I hadn't heard of before, Royal Dadman. I'm not sure who that even is, but I've looked it up. There's comps in the $34.50 range, so that's what I'm going to do. Again, all good records. Here's an early jazz. And again, as I said, on any of the records that you see, look for the word foxtrot. That usually indicates it's a jazz. In this song I've had other Bob Herring. He does sell fairly well. This is like a $59.99 asking price. I should take, say, $45 or so for this one. Another early Paramount label. McClaskey. This is more like an ethnic sounding. I think he's Scottish or something along that line. Let's zoom this in and get a little clearer picture on here for everybody. But again, records always sell. I've showed you Pop Psych now. This is something you're going to want to look for. Onward Christian Soldier's not a big one, but Shannon 4 does have some that sell, so that'll be a seller for it too. Margaret Abbott. Now, I haven't seen much by her. The last one I sold by her was like $22 I got out of it. This one I'm going to put $37.50 because it's on Paramount, which is a better label. Let me grab another stack here, and we will go over the last little group of these. If you're following along to the price, these are selling fairly well, and I'm going to get a high dollar out of my investment here. I'm estimating like $1,200-1,400, as I said, on these records, all together with everything else. Okay, this is Uncle Josh. These are comic ones. Some of his are worth some money and some aren't. He went by many different names, so the name on the record doesn't mean that's who's actually singing. It could be just a made-up name. A lot of artists did, maybe 20, 30 different names they recorded under just to make more money. Their contract with one record label said that they couldn't go under that same name on another label. A lot of the times you'll see exclusive artists written on a certain label, and that's just the reason why. But Uncle Josh, this one I should get $27.50. It's an early one, circa 1910. I haven't cleaned the records up yet, so you'll still see some dirt, but they'll be cleanable. I can tell just by looking at them the condition of them. Haydn Quartet. This is an early World War I era. Only a Message from Home, Sweet Home. This is a soldier talking about getting a letter from home. This is around $29.99. Haydn Quartet's not huge, but they do sell. Usually on the other side there's a different performer too, so I think I got an early ragtime in here to show you too, I think. Some of these are harder to show you because the printing is like a metallic and it reflects too bad. But this is, let me see here, Will Oakland. This is a pretty decent one. Pretty Pond. It was $39.99, early Columbia, circa 1908, 1910. Let's see here. Here's another Batwing. This is let me get it straight for you. This is a World War I. No Man's Land is the land between the trenches during World War I in France. So this is a fairly good one. Charles Hart, Elliott Shaw. I've had this one before too. I think the last one I got $27.50. This one's in a little better condition, so I'm putting $34.50 on it. Ben Tucker Reel. Whenever it says reel, that's kind of an odd thing. It's goes back to the minstrel era. On some of the records. This one here is actually by Asparagus Joe. Whenever they have like South City Joe or Sunshine Joe or Sunshine Dave or Chattanooga Phil or something like that, those ones are usually worth money on a 78 if it has some really funky name like that. These are usually blues singers or oddball country. This one's a country old time. That usually gives it away, old time music. And Champion does a lot of country. Gene Autry was actually on this label too. But I'm going to put $27.50 on this one. Now this one here, it's a little worn, as you can see. It's kind of hard to make out the label. But this is John Philip Sousa's band. In this record, even like that, this is a one-sider. This is what you want to look for in these. You can see the label there. This is circa like 1905 or so, 1908 at the latest, I believe. Even with the worn on it, the track looks really nice. It should play very well. I'm probably going to put $39.99 because this is Liberty Bell March and Sousa. It's an early one. I always look for John Philip Sousa. I've talked about that before. They're not huge quick sellers, but I should make some good money on this one. $39.99 I'll put on it. Here's Collins and Harlan. Now, a lot of the Collins and Harlan do go for decent money. Let's zoom back in here and get a little better picture again. As I go down in the stack, it does go out of focus, so I apologize. But this is the Ghost of the Sax one. I have not seen this one. I can't find any copy of it anywhere. I'm going to put 75 on it. It's an oddball subject. It's two men singing, basically. Rockaway was another one that might be worth something, too. Irving Kaufman again. Again, usually records like this, there'll be two different artists on the record. It's just the way they were. They didn't know any better at the time, and that's what sold. Here's another early one. On the Mississippi, this one here I've had before. There's other comps. I'm going to put $37.50. I should get around 27, I think I got for the last one. This is one that I turn up fairly often. American Quartet. It's an early one. This is a two-sider. Again, as you can see, different people on the back, Campbell and Burr. Let's see here. Fred Van Epps. Now here's the ragtime one. This one I'm going to put around $60 on it. A ragtime episode. Fred Van Epps is a banjo player. Banjo was used in a lot of the early ragtime and jazz, and that's what I look out for. I always buy Fred Van Epps. Not all of them are worth a lot of money, but you'll get to know them after a while. Here's the best one in here in the lot. This one's worth around $300, just over. This one's an E. It's a real nice copy of it. It's a long, long way to Tipperary. It's Stanley Kirkby. It's an oddball one. I haven't seen this one before, but all the comps are in that range, in the $300 range. So this one alone, I will probably put up sooner than later and get my return back right away. Let's see here. Now, I've sold some of these. I think I've even showed you some of these before. Here's two Hank Williams. Not worth a ton of money, but who knows? I was originally going to put $34.50 on the pair of them, but since the last one did sell very well, and I think one of these is actually, I think I just sold the Cold Cold Heart just like a day or so ago on Amazon. So I'm probably going to list these separately now for $34.50 and just see what happens. But that's two more there. Here's another early one, Cal Stewart. Uncle Josh was the comedian. That was the persona that he did. This is an early one. It's got a tiny little wave to the record. You can flatten these out if you wish, but I'm not. I'm just going to sell for $10 less, $20, $19.99, and take whatever. But that's another Cal Stewart. Let's see here. Here's another oddball one, the Raggedy Man, Sally Hamlin. This is an oddball. This one should go in the $60 range. Nice condition. Still needs to be cleaned up. I can clean all this stuff up and it'll look just almost as new as you can be. That's a good one. Here's another early one, Cal Stewart, Uncle Josh. Josh's Huskin' Bee Dance. You'll see some records from the early days that just say Bee Dance. Most of the time it's actually Cal Stewart or one of the other names this gentleman went by. But this one I'll put $24.50. It's an early one, say 1910-ish. Here's another 1910. Miss Jones and Mr. Spencer. The Whittle Dooley. This is another oddball one. Some of these early ones, they're semi-comedic. It's two people singing. It's a duet. This one I'm going to put around 60 at, say, $57.50 on. Let's see here. Here's another jazz person. This one here, you want to look for the name. Some by Osmond, Vessel Osmond are worth some good money. Turkey in the Straw, this is like a ragtime era. I wish it was easier to see these, but the reflection is a killer on some of these. There we go. Turkey in the Straw, this is a medley. This goes back again to the reels and the minstrel shows, but this is another banjo person. Early banjo does sell. $34.50 I'm putting on this one. Again, I didn't clean these up yet, so they will be cleaned before they are sold and photographed. This is Waldorf Astoria Dance Orchestra, Joseph Necht. Not a big mover on some of these, but the American Serenade is a hot one. It's a good dance jazz, $37.50. I should get on this Batwing here. Let's see. Here's an earlier one. This is an oddball label here. Most on this label sell for at least $10. Not the OK label itself. OK has all kinds of labels available all the way up into the 60s and 70s, but the lateral cut. That means it's cut in a different direction than most records. Some records, they start and they cut them on the inside loop here. Other records cut them on the outside loop first. Most modern records run from the outside in. Some of the earlier records run from the inside where they start in the center and then work their way out. This one's just cut differently. Peter Gint. This one I'm going to put $57.50. It's Fred W. Hager as the performer. It's a dance band, circa 1910, 1914, probably somewhere in that range. But that's a good one. Again, these aren't cleaned, but they will be cleaned. Here's another ragtime, Howard Kopf and Frank Banta. This one should do very well. $34.50 I should get out of this one here. Again, it's kind of hard to keep some of these in focus the way I'm moving down the stack. But this one should do very well. It's an early Columbia, circa 1910, 1915-ish. And the last one here, it's another Sousa's Band. Now this one here I sell every time I get one. Stars and Stripes Forever. This was actually recorded by him, actually playing it right there in front of him. That's how they recorded back then. He was present. His whole group was there. It was performed live. One shot, and that's all they had. If you messed up, you had to do it again because it actually engraved the actual grooves when he recorded it. So this is a one-shot take here. $34.50 on Sousa's Band playing Stars and Stripes Forever. I'll show you just a couple other oddball things here. These are actually masters. I don't run into these too often, but somebody actually physically recorded these in the presence in a booth or something somewhere. Audio discs, you'll see. It's actually an acetate. It's got acetate over a aluminum or steel disc. I'm going to have to listen to these to see what they are, but these could be some rare recordings. These could be from a studio. Who knows? You'll see these quite often. I've gotten 45s like this that are worth, a couple $100 up to $1,000. But again, you have to play some of these. Spanish Waltz. These could be someone famous. These could be recorded off the radio. These I'll probably record a couple clips and put those up when I list them. Maybe it's somebody famous. Who knows? Dutch Dance, Strut Buck. Again, I don't know what's on these at all. These just came in there. I paid $1 a piece. It's always worth it for me to do this, to take a chance. Soft Shoe Military. Kind of odd. Stars and Stripes. Who knows? This could be Sousa for all I know. I doubt it at this time, but who knows? 2 different versions of Stars and Stripes. Get Me to the Church. I don't know what that is. Fancy Pants, who knows? And then here's a whole pack of these. Let's back up a little bit here. But let me show you the whole disc. On these discs, again, it's aluminum underneath. You can just see a flake off, or you can see the metal. But this is how they would make a record. They'd press it from this, and you can see there's a secondary hole. That's how they record it through this, and it can be played back there too. But this was a blank. It all looked like this, and then it was grooved in there from there. But here's a whole pack. These unrecorded usually sell fairly well if you're lucky enough to get them. I don't remember if there's anything on any of these, but sometimes these come in packs of 5. And these looks like they're unrecorded. People will buy these and still record them. But there you go, unrecorded one. You can see this is just blank media. This would be like a blank DVD would be back then. But I'll sell these as a lot, unrecorded. Somebody has the machine. They still record these, and they'll press their own records even with these. But I'll probably put, say, $34.50 on these, this lot here. But that's what I got. Hopefully you saw something. Hopefully you learned something from it. Well, there you go. That's the haul. Not a huge haul, but it's a high dollar one. There's probably close to $1,000, $1,200 here minimum. I've got $150 at least I'll get back out of the telegraph keys, the telegraph items, and then the 2 books I should probably take home $35 or $40. And then most of these records, again, one of the records alone is over $300, so I've probably got closer to $1,200, $1,500 with the records and the templates and things like that. So that's what I have. Hopefully you learned something. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe and tell a friend.